Hey there, my name is Raghavi and today I'll be doing hierarchical visitor pattern for CIS 476. Intent. Hierarchical visitor pattern is same as the visitor pattern. The intent is to create operations without affecting the change to the classes, such as the parent node or the child node. However, hierarchical visitor pattern and visitor pattern have a difference. Visitor pattern goes in pre-order traversal, whereas hierarchical visitor pattern goes in track traversal depth and short circuit traversal. So, for the motivation for hierarchical visitor pattern, let's consider a scenario. Suppose that you're looking for a file named CIS 476 class project 1. It is located under a file named CIS 476. However, that file is not a root folder of the overall file directory. The root folder overall is documents. For time being, we consider documents as a root file. So we'll be doing the demo on a separate screen. So let's head over there. So unfortunately, I cannot take you over to demo due to the technical difficulties, and that is File Explorer. So my screen recorder cannot record that part. So basically, I just drew the diagram and show where my CIS 476 class project 1 located. So it originally starts from the root directory documents and it followed by CIS 476, which leads down to projects, then class project 1, which is where CIS 476 is, class project 1 is located. So to recap this scenario, it starts with the root node, which is the root folder for this case. If it matches, then it will proceed into checking each of its child node, which is subfolder. For each child folder, if it matches, then it will go to its child node, which is its subfolder. If not, it will then go to the next child of its parent folder and repeat the step. Under that child folder, if the file CIS 476 class project 1 is found, then that node, or known as file, is found. If not, then it will check its siblings node, meaning other files in that file, folder, meaning, to see if it matches. Note that if none of them are found, then such path directory of a file does not exist. This is something that the visitor pattern cannot perform. Consequences. Before I explain about the main consequence of the hierarchical visitor pattern, let's talk about the advantages of hierarchical visitor pattern. There are two advantages of hierarchical visitor pattern. Number one, it has hierarchical navigation, whereas visitor pattern does not go in depth of the traversal. In other words, visitor pattern cannot determine whether the current node has its own child node. Number two, it has conditional navigation, whereas visitor pattern does not have its own condition to follow. In other words, visitor pattern will go through each node without checking each node whether they are valid or not. So based on those two advantages, there is one main consequence. That consequence is duplicated code when applying hierarchical structures to the visitor pattern code. Known uses. So for these known uses and based on the advantages and the consequence of using hierarchical visitor pattern, whenever you use to look for a specific node of the overall directory, based on a path given, like the example mentioned under motivational slides. Here are the list of examples that could be used by this pattern. Number one, Eclipse IDE, where Java development tooling uses this pattern to traverse this AST. Number two, permission from space, which is as known as Security Platform Architecture for Composition and Extension, which uses this pattern to add a method parent node to the group of permissions, which is its children. Structure. This class diagram is based on the hotgblogspot.com. So this is based on their work. So I will go over each of these class diagrams in the coming slides. One of the class diagrams we're going to go over is client, which is also known as the main program that handles both element and hierarchical visitor class. The second class is element, which accepts the interface, which is otherwise known as hierarchical visitor class. This class also holds multiple composite element classes and their leaf element classes. So, leaf element classes is known as a child elements or child nodes. So next class, composite element, which accepts interface, otherwise known as hierarchical visitor class, to perform its class, as well as the leaf element class. Once again, leaf element classes is otherwise known as child node or child class. Leaf element, which is known as the child class, which accepts interface, otherwise known as hierarchical visitor class, the child class of the composite element which processes its own class without having its own child class. In other words, leaf element does not have its own child classes. So once it hits leaf element, then it will run its own class before returning to the composite element. Next class, high hierarchical visitor. An interface classes which applies to other classes to perform hierarchical visitor pattern using exit, leave. So these three classes will be explained on the next slide. So in the meantime, let's go over the last class before going on to those three functions. So for concrete visitor, it is originally contained those three operations, which is visit enter, visit exit, and visit leave, to perform the overall operation. Concrete visitor can perform operations other than those three, such as printing out the outputs. For hierarchical visitor pattern, it can print out the path. Will be discussed later. So let's go over those three functions. Visit enter, visit exit, and visit leave. So each of these three has hierarchical and conditional navigation. So let's start with the visit enter. So for visit enter in hierarchical navigation, visit enter begins with the composite element accepting the I hierarchical visitor pattern. In other words, the composite element class accepts the hierarchical pattern structure. For visit enter, it will perform the function under component element class before entering its child class, which is leaf element classes, using visit leaf, where it will perform the same. If it doesn't have a child class, which is leaf element class, then it will then use visit exit to traverse through its siblings classes, otherwise known as the composite element classes. For conditional navigation, it requires a return of true or false. If it returns true, then it is required to traverse through its child classes, which is leaf element classes. If it returns false, then it is not required. For visit exit, which is exiting the node. For hierarchical navigation, when exiting a class using visit exit, it will traverse through its sibling classes, otherwise known as composite element classes, before leaving these classes. In conditional navigation, true requires to go to its next sibling class. It would not be if it returns false. The last one, which is visit leave, which visits the leaf node. In hierarchical navigation, this performs its own function within the class. For conditional navigation, true is required. It needs to go to its next sibling. Otherwise, it doesn't. So for the demo, I'll be using my CIS 150 project. I do not have a previous project that involves this pattern, so I'm going to be applying this pattern onto my existing project. So the project I have done was Health Buddy Assistant, which involves using C++ since it was my introductory computer science class. So for the purpose of Health Buddy Assistant was to ask the user to enter his height, weight, and age to determine his or her BMI. Yes, one more thing is to add her name. So based on that BMI, it will tell the category of that BMI and suggestion for the user to whether gain, lose, or maintain his or her weight. So in order to apply the hierarchical visitor pattern, there's going to be a little twist. So one of the twists is to add is to ask the user at the end of the program, meaning once he or she receives the BMI and the suggestion, he or she will be asked whether he wants a report of the entire BMI chart or not. If that user enters yes, then it will use its hierarchical visitor pattern to go over each BMI along with the suggestion and print out the report to give it to for the user to keep. Um, and number two is that I'll be adding in the do while loop, which allows the user to enter more than one user's information. So that means it will allow up to three users to enter his name, his height or weight, and age to determine his or her BMI, and then compare to the report at the end. So let's head over to the my demo. Before we go over to the demo, here's my class diagram that involves using hierarchical visitor pattern. I will be explaining more in depth to the code, so have a look at this class diagram before I head over to the code. Here is my references I used for the presentation. Now we can head over to the code. So for the code, I'm starting off with the main program, or else known as the Health Buddy Assistant. I changed from C++ to Java once again because C++ was required for my introductory computer science class. So I do have to make some changes. The variables didn't change that much. The code structure didn't change that much. So I only had to make some minor changes to make for the hierarchical visitor pattern. So here I listed the variables that were same from my original one, followed by additional variables needed for my the main purpose for this program. The difference is that I created do while loop. So instead of asking user one time with these question and then giving them back the BMI along with the suggestion at the end, I allow the user to play again 2 more times, so we can allow up to 3 users along with their results to input their information and receive back their results. After that, so yeah, as you can see, it shows the regular messages of saying, okay, enter your height, enter your weight, and it goes through the condition to make sure if it's a valid variable values or characters such as male or female, and then it performs the calculations, and then it goes through if and else to figure out the category, BMI category, along with the suggestions such as gain some weight if you're mild thinness for underweight. So at the end, it will ask the user if you want to play again. Once again, it's up to 3 users to play 3 times. And then I have listed a bit the messages. The reason why, because it cannot run through everything during the do while because it only runs 3 times. And not all the messages will be fed into the hierarchical visitor pattern. So after the do while, I just listed these messages out, and these messages are going to be performed under print summary equals. So before that, it's going to ask user you want a list with the BMI categories, its values, and a summary and its suggestions at the end. If the user say yes, then it's going to perform, and that's where it's going to perform the hierarchical visitor pattern. If no, then it's going to skip this part. And under the print summary, it's going to call hierarchical node, so which is one of the composite element. So that is a parent parent node, and then it's going to create array list, and then it's going to call underweight. So that's going to be a parent, followed by another array list for its leaf node. So that's where it's going to add the messages and it's going to repeat the same thing for other categories. And then also at the end of the leaf list, it's going to add it to the, excuse me, yeah, so it's gonna oh sorry, this is for the other messages that is already leaf. And then by the end, it's gonna call display result visitor, where it's gonna print that result. It's gonna print using the for loop, and then at the end, it's gonna print out the concluding messages to the user and ends the program. So that is all for the main program. So we'll go to the classes. So let's start off with the hierarchical visitor. So that's where it's going to perform visit enter, visit exit, and visit leave. So it's going to get overridden with display result visitor. So display result visitor is going to get overridden by printing out the results. As you can see, it's going to get called, and it's going to use override the function to visit the node and print out the result. And in order to get those results, it's going to get called through the health summary. So when you get over to the health summary, it's an element where it consists of composite element and a leaf element. So this was where it's going to get an input, and it's going to determine where it's going to go to the hierarchical node or leaf node. So that is where it's going to also accept the hierarchical visitor. So onto hierarchical node, so that is where it's going to get accepted as a parent and also hierarchical visitor. And at the end, it's going to exit. And same thing for leave. No, it's a little different because it's only leave. So it's going to perform on itself, and then it's also going to accept on hierarchical visitor. And for them, it's going to visit this that leaf. And that is it for the leaf node. So let's head back to the health buddy assistant, and let's perform the program. Spelling. Alright, so for my testing purpose, I had to press any key to enter, so I'm going to press enter. Then it says, hi, I'm health buddy assistant. It's telling a direction. So I'm just going to enter Bob, question mark, I can't take off her last name, middle name, last name, I'm going to put Billy. By the way, if anyone's full name is that, I'm very sorry. So for the weight, I'm just going to come up with a random number. So I'm going to pick 169. So height will be 6 inches. I'm going to pick random number 2. Age, I want to say 22 to be for the average male. And then this is where the result is. So here's the result, your name. So your last name get printed, your first name. If you have a middle name, it's going to place in the middle, but since Bob does not have a middle name, it gets skipped. Your age, his gender, weight, either pounds or kilograms, height, BMI, so 21, which is normal, so he's declared as a normal range, and that's a suggestion. Eat right, exercise right, be happy, and then those are the rest of messages, and then it'll ask 1 to repeat this for another person, enter 1 for yes, and 0 for no. And I'm gonna go for no because I can't think of it anymore username along with the weight and stuff. So I'm just gonna go with no. And now it's gonna ask us for a list of BMI categories along with their values and suggestions. I'm gonna go with yes, so that way I want you to see how the hierarchical visitor pattern performs. Enter, and it lists all the BMI categories, underweight, severe thinness, and those are the suggestions. If you look back on the code, I've listed everything right after do while. So just in case you, user wants to see the entire result, that way these are getting added in and everything will be displayed on the report. For instance, um, which I did not do the extra work, but for the purpose of applying for hierarchical visitor pattern, I did. So yeah, this is how I apply for the hierarchical visitor pattern. Thank you so much for your time for my presentation and my code demonstration. Yeah.